Hi, welcome to the Corner of Knit and Tea, episode 340. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarn and patterns. So, hi, how are you? I am a day late. It is Tuesday, August 10th. And I did not get home until 7:30 last night. We had a wonderful weekend. My husband and I put on our masks and drove up to Chicago to see my sister and the kids and my parents. And it is the first time we have all been together in person since Thanksgiving of 2019. So we stayed inside, we cooked and ordered takeout, we played with the kids, we did take some walks outside. We did absolutely nothing touristy and mostly just hung out and enjoyed each other's company. The kids treated Wes like he was a jungle gym and played hard. We had bedtime stories, we played some rousing games of Uno, and it was actually a super, super fun weekend and wonderful for us. I am not clear what future plans are. We would love to see each other again for the Thanksgiving holiday here in the US, but we're just going to have to wait and see what the country looks like by then. We are sort of taking it day by day during the pandemic here, but it was really, really wonderful to see everyone and just get a few days to hang out. And normally we're so busy trying to cook Thanksgiving meals or we're squeezing in visits with the rest of life going on. It was so nice to just be. We didn't have anywhere we had to be any day. We were just making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and ordering pizza, or we had one night where we grilled hamburgers and hot dogs. It was just a really slow-moving time just to enjoy each other. Read lots of stories and just hang out together. So I do have some new knitting projects and things to show you, not as much as I would like, because I will tell you that basically from the time we got to Chicago on Friday evening until we left on Monday morning, I barely touched my knitting. However, we did have it was an 8 to 9 hour drive each direction, so I got lots of knitting done in the car. I have lots of project plans for this week, and I did finish a few things before I left. So let's get right into it, and I can talk to you about what's going on in crafting. So today I am drinking Dragon Claw Oolong, which is a tea from Tea Runners. It is tearunners.com, and this one is an oolong from the Oolong region of Nepal. I cannot tell you how long I've had this. I still have bags of tea that I have not opened from them that arrived more than a year or two ago. Yes, I know I'm supposed to use it up faster, but I just don't get to it that fast. I do like oolongs. They tend to be a little smoky, and I just wanted kind of a great dark tea for today. I am catching up. It's kind of a Tuesday that's like a Monday. I am catching up at work. I am later in the day than I normally record. It's already 4:30, and I'm not done with my to-do list for the day, not to mention I haven't started knitting yet. So, yes, and I am drinking it in my oy vey all day, which seemed appropriate for a Tuesday that is like a Monday. So a little shot of caffeine and something to get me through the rest of the day. That is delicious. So let's talk about the knits. Last week I was so close to done on 2 sweaters. I finished both of them. Unfortunately, I only have one of them to show you this week. I did finish the Ladyfingers sweater by Morgan Waltersdorf, and actually that has already been sent out to the photographer to go back to Zen Yarn Garden. It will be offered as a kit starting at Vogue, Virtual Vogue Live in September. So that is why I had to turn it around real quickly, get it out, get it photographed. They're going to work on putting kits together. So that one is finished. I do have pictures of it in my Instagram feed. It was a challenging knit, more challenging than some of the ones that I have done. Color work. The lines are vertical, so it was challenging to keep my floats appropriate. And I think there would be some challenges in terms of how many colors you want to use, and sort of balancing all of that so you skein ordering depending on what size you are making. However, it did turn out really nice. I knit it to a nice cropped length, Not super short, but definitely a little cropped, and it has kind of ribbing on the collar and sleeves and at the bottom, and otherwise it is just kind of a bold graphic colorwork print. So again, you can see I do have, okay, let's talk about a couple things. One is I do have project pages on Ravelry for the items that I knit as sample knits. That is part of my deal with the company, and I also put all my project notes there so that if you buy a kit, you can find the notes there. In general, I have discontinued using Ravelry for most of my personal use. However, if you are looking for details on that project, since that was a sample knit, that project is on Ravelry as a sample knit. I also have photos of it in my Instagram feed, and you are welcome to ask me any questions you would like if you cannot use Ravelry. So that is the first finished knit that unfortunately I don't have to show you. The second finished knit was the V-back tee, which is a pattern by Jamie Hoffman, who is Knitosophy Designs, and I was knitting that as part of the VT knit along for Zen Yarn Garden, and I was using one of their gradient cakes in the colorway Rice Tie, and I finished it, and actually I wore it this weekend. I wore it with the V in front, but here is my finished VT. I knit the size 3, I believe, and I have a size 38 inch bust. It fits nicely. The top on me is a little bit almost A-line down at the bottom, even though it's not really knit that way. I think it's the shaping on the bias and the way you resolve that shaping that makes it like that. The sleeves have just a little bit of a pucker sort of created, or a little bit of an extra bit sort of created by the shaping in the pattern, and I think it makes it look really nice. I did take some family photos with this, so it's not outside the realm of possibility. You'll see photos of me wearing it, but otherwise I did finish this one. My gauge must have been off, or I just knit a shorter length this time. Because I managed to do it all in one gradient cake, and I should have needed about 900 yards, and one gradient cake is 750 yards. I do know that I did not knit the sleeves quite as long as it intended for me to. It wanted me to knit a couple inches, and on mine I didn't do that. I just sort of finished the sleeves almost where they were. I added just a couple rows and then a few rows of the ribbing. So I know that's one place where I abbreviated a little bit. Otherwise, I don't know. I am perfectly happy with the gauge it knit up at. When I took it with me, it was barely dry, and I took a camisole to wear underneath it just in case I didn't like, just in case it was a little bit sheer, and it was not. So I had no problem with that. I wore it just as is, and it was a nice lightweight tee. It's got a really nice drape, and it blocked out nicely. So that is the V-back tee by Jamie Hoffman, who is Knitosophy. I don't have finished photos of this up yet. I need to take them, and I basically followed the pattern. I used a slightly different needle size. If you have questions about this knit, this size tee is not on my projects page because this one was just for me. However, I did knit a sample of this a few months ago, and that is on there is a project page on Ravelry with those notes. And again, if you would like to ask me any questions because you do not use Ravelry or cannot use Ravelry, you are more than welcome to send me those questions, and I would be happy to answer them with the details of what I did. So that done, I had a few more projects on the needles here at home, but everything was either charted or bulky weight yarn, or I was getting ready to start a shawl that was entirely too complicated to knit in the car. It is a written pattern with all kinds of short row shaping, and it requires tons of following the pattern line by line by line. And that is not a good recipe for car knitting. So instead, I took two entirely new projects with me and started them while I was on the road. So let's talk about those. The first one is a kind of beach-inspired V-neck pullover. It is knit in a bulky weight cotton, and I am test knitting it for a friend of mine. The designer actually is a member of my knit group, and she took her children. Her in-laws rented a place at the beach on the East Coast for several weeks earlier this summer when numbers were looking a little better towards the pandemic. And she has two very small children. I think her children are 5 and 2. And they had been staying indoors all year long for the pandemic. And she decided to go ahead and take her kids to the beach house. Everybody quarantined before they went. And then it was grandparents and some brothers and sisters, and then, of course, all the kids. And she took the kids with her and basically had a beach vacation for a couple weeks. Most of the adults worked during the day, and then they hung out at night. And when she got there, she realized that she didn't bring enough knitting. And so she went to the local yarn store there where she was staying and bought a sweater's quantity of this bulky weight cotton in a kind of a greenish blue colorway. It was very watercolored. And she knit herself this really kind of oversized, lightly textured v-neck pullover, a little like super oversized, a little sloppy, just perfect for wearing around the house. And she knit it and she took photos. She knit it in about 2 weeks, just kind of designed it on the fly because that's how she is, and posted a photo of herself wearing it, and all of us in my knit group said, we want to knit that. So she has now put together the pattern, and it is in test knitting. The designer is Ashley Reed. Yes, Ashley Reed, and she can be found on Instagram as Reed Street Knitting. I will include all of that with the show notes. And the yarn that she used is Juniper Moon Farm Bud, which is a textured kind of a boucle, 100% organic cotton, and it comes in all kinds of great colorways. And the skeins are 100 grams, 109 yards, like I said, of a bulky weight cotton, and they are really reasonably priced. They're between $12 and $13 a skein. And because it is bulky weight yarn, the sweater that I am making in my size, which is, I'm knitting the size 3, it is for a 38 to 40 bust. I'm a 38 bust, and it has intended ease of 4 to 6 inches. So the finished bust on the pullover will be approximately 44 inches. And I tried on her sample. She had made one size larger, and I knew that I wanted to go down a size. And the only other detail is that I am using the colorway Primrose, which is this nice kind of pinky magenta colorway. So this is a fairly simple pattern. It is worked from the bottom up in the round, then you split for front and back, knit some sleeves, put on your collar, and bingo, you have a new sweater. I started this when we left last Friday, and I knit a bunch yesterday, and I am 2 skeins in to what should be a 6.5 to 7 skein sweater, and this is what I have so far. As I said, it's knit from the bottom up. It is a boucle yarn, so it doesn't need a lot of texture, but it has a 1x1 rib at the bottom, and then it has a very slightly, she calls it modified seed stitch, so it is just kind of a broken seed stitch that gives it some very light texture. And as you can see, it has been crumpled up in my bag, so it's showing a little bit of wrinkle, but otherwise I am moving along quite nicely. I would say I am approximately 10 or 11 inches in. I need to do probably one more ball before I will be splitting for the front and back. And I have no complaints. As I said, I basically just cast on. I did my ribbing for the intended rows, and then I went ahead and started in the body pattern, and it was just a roundy. There is no shaping. It's just kind of a straight, oversized sweater. You probably could add shaping in at the sides. You would just need to put in some stitch markers at the sides to measure where you are, but I am not doing it. I am just knitting it per pattern. So that is what I am working on. If this sounds interesting to you, I know specifically she is still looking for testers in larger sizes. That would be a finished size of 50 inches and up. Again, her Instagram is Reed Street Knitting, R-E-A-D, Street Knitting, all one word. And her name is Ashley, and I'm sure she would love a few more testers if you were interested in testing. So that is what I'm working on. I think this is going to be a quick knit. I am going to have to put it aside a little bit for this week to finish up on some of the knits that I left at home, but then I'll be back on it, and the test knitting phase goes for, I think she wanted about 5 weeks, and we're already a week or so in. So I'm hoping I will finish this one this month. I don't think it should be a problem because it is a pretty quick knit once I actually sit down and knit it. Like I said, I got, 10, 11 inches done just in 2 days of knitting. So that is the first project I have on the needles, and I'm planning to work on this week as well. The second project that I finally cast on after threatening for many months is I went ahead and started Miles' sock arm sweater. As a reminder, I am using the Sock Arm Sweater by Stephanie Lotvin, who is Telly Bean Knits, as inspiration for this sweater. However, I decided to go ahead and use the Flax Light pattern by Tin Can Knits as the sweater body. And then I am just doing the arms in sock yarn. I did something similar for Roxy's sweater, which I completed a little bit earlier this summer. I think maybe, well, it might not have quite been summer yet. It might have been April or May. And I am basically just repeating the process for Miles. I just have slightly different yarns. So I worked on this in the car as well because this is a top-down raglan. It's super easy and simple, and while I did have raglan shaping, I didn't have to stare at the pattern a ton, and I have gotten to about an inch and a half past the sleeve separation. So this is what I am looking at so far. The body is being knit in Dreaming Color Smooshy in the colorway Prince William. So it's just this nice plain gray. It's got a little bit of semi-solid shading in there. I think it almost looks like it has a little bit of a blue tint to it, which is really nice. And like I said, I am working on that, and I still have, I don't remember how many inches for the body. I think between 10 and 12 to finish the body. And then the fun part will come, of course, when I get to add the yarn for the sleeves. And this is the yarn that I am going to be using. This is Nomadic Yarns. And I actually, ooh, I even have some labels for this one. I didn't have any of the Juniper Moon Farm. This is Dream in Color. And as I said, it's smushy in the, I believe, the Prince William colorway. Does it say? It does. It says Prince William. Perfect. So Dream in Color Smushy, and then the other one is I am using Nomadic Yarns. They are Nomadic Yarns on Etsy. This is their trusty sock base, which is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 462 yards. And the colorway is Sharknado, which is red, kind of a turquoisey green and a blue, and then a light gray, which is where I kind of got the gray for the body from. I thought that would be nice. I think the gray in the body is just a smidge darker than the gray on the sleeves, but I think that'll be fine. I don't think it will be a problem. Because I am knitting a slightly smaller size for Miles, I definitely had enough to start with the ribbing at the top and will finish with the ribbing at the bottom, so I won't need to add an extra color as I did with Roxy's. I'm knitting the size 6 to 8. I believe I have gone down a couple needle sizes. That is because of my gauge, not because of the pattern, but I am super pleased with what I have so far. I was really pleased to get past the sleeve shaping because now this is just a mindless knit round and round and round, and either this one or the other sweater are going to become my Zoom knitting this week. I have plenty of meetings this week. Excuse me. Still recovering from being tuckered out all weekend playing with kids. I am excited to work on this one. I also, kind of unrelated, got tracings of the children's feet, and they have been sprouting up since I have seen them last and taken tracings, and of course their feet have grown, so I have lots of sock knitting to do, and actually he might get some matching Sharknado socks if I have enough left over. So that is the other knitting that I started on this week. So I got 2 sweaters started. I'm very happy with those. I would love to finish both of those by the end of the month. Today is August 10th, so technically I have 3 more weeks, 21 days, but we will have to see because, as I said, I still have a few knits in progress that I need to finish this week. The final thing that I will be casting on for, and that is probably tonight, but if not tonight, tomorrow night, is my next sample knit for Zen Yarn Garden. I sample knit for them, and as viewers, regular viewers of the podcast will know, I almost always have a project going in Zen Yarn Garden. I do occasionally knit for myself in Zen Yarn Garden, but primarily I work on projects for them. I am going to be working on a 3-color shawl. It is called Positive Vibrations, and it is by Marin, I think it's Melikor, but she goes by Marinja Knits, and the one that she knit was in 3 colorways of Madeline Tosh, and Zen Yarn Garden has come up with some colorways that are similar to those colors that were used, so we're going to put together a kit for that. So these are the 3 colors that I'm using. They'll be bright and colorful, and they are, the green is scallions, the orange is tangerine, and the blue is navy. So that is what I'm going to be casting on this week. I do not have the photo here of the Positive Vibration shawl. This is, the yarn is Zen Yarn Garden Superfine Fingering, which is 90% superwash merino, superwash superfine merino, and 10% nylon, and they are 100 gram skeins, approximately 400 yards. So I am knitting, I believe, the larger size shawl. I can't remember. I have to go back and look what the shawl can be knit in a variety of options. It can be knit in color changing yarns. It can be knit in 2 colors. It can be knit in 3 colors. It can be knit in gradients. It can do a little bit of anything. And as I said, I have 3 skeins, approximately 400 yards. And so I think I'm knitting the larger version with 3 colors, but I will be more specific next week once I have started. So that is going to be a slightly more complicated knit. The pattern is quite long, and as I said, because there is short row and all kinds of shaping and striping and some really interesting looks that it creates, the pattern is quite long and quite detailed, so I will be working row by row and section by section, and I will need to sit with the pattern for that. So that is going to be kind of my concentration knitting, as it were, in the next few weeks. And again, my hope is to finish it by the end of the month, but if I bleed over a little bit into September, that's okay, because that is going to be definitely the most challenging of knits that I'm going to have on the needles. So that is what I have to show you this week. I have been gone I was trying to finish up things before I left. I'm trying to catch up now. I don't know if I will get to my spinning wheel this week. I do have a couple braids picked out to go on the wheel next, but I said yes a few too many times, so I have lots of samples and things due in the next couple weeks. And once I move a few knits off my plate, I will definitely go back to spinning, because I miss it and would like to do more, but I've got lots and lots of knitting planned. And then I also have, I can't believe it's already almost fall. I mean, beginning of August always signifies like the return of sweater weather for myself or for other folks, and I have a couple sweaters on the needle. On the needles, I need to do some socks for the fall. I need to do some winter knits for the children. And I do know that the holidays will be here before we know it. I know I'm starting super early, but I always knit them a few pairs of socks and some hats and scarves and mittens. And Miles has grown so much in the last 2 years. And so I really need to, actually Roxy is at a point where she outgrew her socks. But my sister says she probably has enough hats and scarves and mittens because she hasn't worn through them. But Miles has grown, nothing fits anymore, so I really need to get in gear and make him some winter gear. So I think that's all I have for you for today. Thanks for joining me. And again, I apologize that I am a day late. We just got into town late last night. It was dark. This morning was super stormy and overcast, and now it is just hot and steamy out there. And I just wanted to get a podcast in today, get you some links to some of the things that I'm working on. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend ahead. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend, and that your week is off to a good start. I hope you're happy and healthy and finding some good motivation to craft. I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.